When my father died, the priest said the word peace too many times. It hung in the air like smoke, heavy, perfumed, impossible to breathe through. My stepmother didn't cry. She just kept staring at the closed casket as if she expected it to open and correct everyone. Her name was Evelyn. Everyone in town called her gracious, kind, devoted. I used to think so too, until the day I realized she was the only one still alive who knew what really happened. That day started quietly, like most lies do. The lawyer called me after the funeral. "Your father left no will," he said. I frowned. "That's impossible. My father planned everything." He hesitated. "Well, someone destroyed it. We found the safe, but the documents inside were burned." Burned? Almost perfectly. When I hung up, Evelyn was sitting by the window, a cup of tea untouched beside her. "He never wanted to be buried," she said softly. "What?" She looked at me, eyes flat as glass. "He told me once he wanted the sea. But people never do what they mean to, do they?" Her tone made my skin crawl. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. Stripped of the usual sounds of my father's presence, the radio humming low, the scrape of his pen, the deliberate rhythm of a man trying to control the world by putting it on paper. Around midnight, I went downstairs. Evelyn's study door was open. She was inside, barefoot, in her nightgown, sitting at his desk. The fire in the hearth was dying, but the smell of smoke was thick, alive. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't turn. "Cleaning." Her voice was steady, calm. On the desk lay a pile of ashes. She ran her fingers through them. "You ever notice," she said, "how paper burns cleaner than memory?" I stepped closer. In the light of the dying fire, I saw something in the ashes, half a photograph. I picked it up. The top corner showed my father's face, younger, smiling. Arm around a woman who wasn't Evelyn. "Who is she?" I asked. Evelyn looked up. Her expression didn't change. "The reason your father deserved to die." The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She wore pearls, cooked breakfast, hummed an old song from the 80s. I almost believed I'd imagined the night before. But when she handed me my coffee, I noticed her hand tremble, just once. A tiny quake under the surface. "I found something in Dad's study," I said carefully. "Did you?" "A photograph." She smiled faintly. "You always were curious." Was that woman? She was no one, she interrupted, her tone sharp, rehearsed. "Don't look for her." Then, softer, "Don't make me hate you too." Later, while she was in town, I searched the study again. The ashes were gone, the fireplace scrubbed clean. But beneath the desk drawer, I found a small brass key taped to the underside. It didn't fit any lock in the house. That night, I followed her. She drove to the outskirts of town. To an old motel by the highway, the kind with flickering neon and a vacancy sign that hadn't been true in years. She parked, looked around, then went inside room 12. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. The door was ajar. Inside, the lights were off. The air smelled of rain and old smoke. On the table sat a small safe, black, unmarked. My father's initials were scratched faintly into the corner. And beside it, Evelyn's wedding ring. I reached for it, but then I heard her voice behind me. "You shouldn't have come here." I turned. She was standing in the doorway, hair wet from the rain. Eyes brighter than I'd ever seen them. "Whose safe is that?" I asked. "Ours," she said. "Then open it." She smiled. "Not yet. You wouldn't understand what's inside." "Try me." Her hand touched the safe, almost tenderly. It's the truth, she whispered. And the truth only hurts the people who deserve it. I stared at her, heart pounding. Did you kill him? She tilted her head. Would it make you feel better if I said yes? Her voice was calm, too calm. When I looked again, her wedding ring was gone from the table. I'm tired, Adam, she said quietly. Tired of pretending your father's sins died with him. What sins? She opened the door, rain spilling in around her. The kind you don't inherit, until you ask the wrong questions. And then she left me standing there, the storm swallowing her footsteps. The key still burning in my pocket. When I got home, I unlocked the safe. Inside were 3 envelopes, each labeled with a single name. The first, Marjorie. The second, Evelyn. The third, Adam. I didn't open mine, not yet. Because I already knew, whatever truth waited inside wasn't about him. It was about me. I didn't open the envelope right away. For 3 days, it sat on my desk, heavy as a heartbeat. The single word Adam written in my father's precise, slanted handwriting. Evelyn moved through the house like nothing had changed. She wore black but not for mourning, it looked more like armor. She smiled at neighbors, arranged flowers, cooked enough food for ghosts. On the 4th night, I found her outside, sitting in the garden with a glass of red wine. The porch light made her look younger, almost soft, but her eyes, God. Her eyes were still sharp enough to cut through anything that approached truth. You found the safe, she said before I could speak. I did. And the letters? I saw mine. She sipped her wine. But you didn't open it. I'm not sure I want to. She tilted her head. Good. Some things don't survive being seen. I sat across from her. What was in yours? She smiled, small and secretive. A confession. The next morning, I heard her on the phone. She thought I was still asleep. Yes, she was saying. He has it. He hasn't read it yet. No, I don't think he knows what it means. A pause. Of course he'll open it eventually. Curiosity's the one thing he inherited. Then she hung up. When I walked into the kitchen, she didn't flinch. She just smiled like the night before and asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. She looked almost disappointed. You sound like your father when you lie. I couldn't take it anymore. That afternoon, I locked myself in my room and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, unsigned. You were never supposed to know. She was the one who found out first. I thought I could protect you both by ending it, but I was wrong. Evelyn knows everything now. And if you're reading this, she's already decided what to do with it. The truth isn't about me anymore, Adam. It's about what I took from you. Below the text, there was a single line handwritten in ink. Ask her what happened to Marjorie. Marjorie, the name from the first envelope. That night, while Evelyn was asleep, I went back to the safe. The envelopes for Marjorie and Evelyn were gone. But in their place, something new had appeared, a small glass bottle filled with sand. Sealed with wax. Inside was a folded note. I cracked the seal carefully and unrolled it. She's not in the ground. She's in the lake. I didn't tell Evelyn. I just drove. The lake sat behind the old orchard, a half-hour from town. My father had taken me there as a kid to fish. I remembered him saying the water was deep enough to keep secrets. The shoreline was calm, quiet, the air sharp with the smell of pine. But near the dock, I saw it, a single patch of disturbed earth, darker than the rest. Someone had been here recently. As I knelt down, I noticed a glint between the reeds, a thin chain. Tangled around a small piece of metal. I pulled it free. A locket. Inside, a photograph of my father and a woman I didn't recognize. The same one from the half-burned picture I'd found in the ashes. Marjorie. Behind the photo, carved in tiny letters, were 2 words. For Evelyn. When I got home, she was waiting. You went there, she said. Not a question. I had to. Her expression didn't change. And what did you find? A grave, I said quietly. And a locket. Her eyes flickered, something between pain and relief. Then you know. I know you were there. She laughed softly. Of course I was. I was always there, Adam. He made sure of it. I took a step closer. Did you kill her? Her hand tightened around the stem of her glass. It cracked in her grip, red wine spilling down her wrist like blood. No, she said. I buried her. The words landed like thunder. Then she whispered, almost tenderly. And now I'm the only one left who remembers how she got there. Before I could respond, she handed me a small envelope, pale and unmarked. This was supposed to be yours when you turned 18, she said. He couldn't bring himself to give it to you. What is it? Proof, she said. That truth is never clean. She walked away before I could open it. Inside was another photograph. This time, it was me, barely a toddler, sitting in a woman's lap. Not Evelyn's. On the back, in faded ink, someone had written, "My boy, my Adam." And for the first time, I realized the truth Evelyn carried wasn't just about how my father died. It was about who I really was. That night, I didn't sleep. The photograph sat on the desk under the lamp. The woman's face caught in the yellow light, soft smile, familiar eyes. My eyes. Marjorie. I turned the picture over again. My boy, my Adam. The handwriting wasn't my father's. It wasn't Evelyn's either. It was hers. And that meant only one thing. Evelyn had been lying from the start. In the morning, I confronted her. She was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, washing the cracked wineglass she'd broken the night before. The cut on her hand had scabbed over. Who is she? I demanded, holding up the photo. Who is Marjorie? She didn't turn around. You already know. She was my mother, wasn't she? Yes. The word fell so easily, so quietly, it felt rehearsed. I took a step closer. You told me she was just some woman he loved before you. She was. She turned then, eyes flat, unreadable. But she was also the woman he destroyed. And the reason I married him. The room seemed to tilt. You knew about me this whole time? She smiled faintly. Of course I did, Adam. I was there the day you were born. I didn't want to believe her. But she told the story with too much detail to have invented it. Marjorie was my father's mistress before she became pregnant. He promised her a future. A family. Then, when she refused to disappear quietly, he found someone else to do what he couldn't, raise the child without the scandal. Evelyn. He paid me, she said simply. But I didn't do it for money. I did it because she asked me to. I stared at her. She asked you to take me? She knew he'd ruin you, too. She wanted someone else to raise you until she could come back. For you. She never came back, I said. No, Evelyn whispered. Because he killed her. Her voice didn't tremble. Mine did. You buried her. She nodded. He called me that night. Said she'd fallen, that she was gone. I found her by the lake. I couldn't leave her there, Adam. So I did what he couldn't do. I gave her peace. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, you lied to me my entire life. Evelyn looked at me with something like pity. I raised you. I loved you. Lies don't erase that. They erase everything else. I left. I don't remember the drive. Just rain, heavy and endless, blurring the world into water and light. I ended up at the lake again, the same spot where I'd found the disturbed earth. The same quiet place where every truth seemed to surface only to drown again. The ground was softer now, the rain loosening what Evelyn had buried years ago. When lightning flashed, I saw something glint in the mud. I reached down and pulled it free. A silver bracelet, engraved inside, MC, A's first steps. My throat closed. She'd been there for me, once. Long enough to see me walk. Long enough to lose everything after. When I returned home, Evelyn was waiting. She stood in the doorway like she'd known I'd come back angry. She was holding another letter. "You should read this," she said. "I'm done with your letters. It's not from me." I hesitated, then took it. The handwriting was my father's. The date at the top was from 2 weeks before he died. "Evelyn, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't live with what I did. I never meant for Marjorie to die. It was an accident. She slipped. I tried to save her, but it was too late. I thought burying her would bury the guilt. But it only grew. And now it's inside him, too, inside Adam. He deserves to know, even if it destroys him." I let the paper fall from my hands. "He wanted to tell me," I said. "Yes. And you stopped him." Evelyn didn't deny it. "He was weak. He didn't deserve to tell you." I stared at her, shaking. "So you killed him?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. "You always said truth was mercy," I said quietly. "But this isn't mercy. This is control." Evelyn's eyes softened. "You think I did it for revenge?" "No. I did it to protect what was left of her." You're not protecting me," I said. "You're keeping me prisoner in a story you wrote." I turned toward the door. She reached for me, but I pulled away. "Adam," she said, "you're my son too." I stopped in the doorway. "No," I said, "I was just your alibi." That night, I drove to the lake one last time. I threw the bracelet into the water. It sank quickly, a small flash swallowed by dark. When I looked up, I saw her silhouette across the water, Evelyn, standing under the trees. Watching me. She didn't move, neither did I. Somewhere between us, the truth lay buried, shifting quietly in the earth. And for the first time, I realized that maybe the reason Evelyn never let it surface wasn't to protect herself. It was to protect me, from the kind of truth that ruins whatever love survives it. I didn't see her for 3 days after that night at the lake. I told myself I didn't care, but every time a car slowed outside or the house creaked, I half expected to hear her voice again, measured, calm, threaded with that quiet authority she wore like perfume. When she finally called, her voice was flat. "Come to the house," she said. "There's something you should see." Then she hung up. I thought about ignoring her. I should have, but there are certain people you can't quite stay away from, people whose gravity keeps pulling you back, even when you know it'll burn you. The night after I found the locket, I packed what little I owned and left town. No destination. No reason. Just distance. The drive stretched into hours, the road unspooling beneath the headlights like something endless. The world outside blurred into color and rain. I didn't realize where I was going until the lake appeared again, glinting silver beneath the moonlight. It always ended here. I parked near the old dock and stepped out into the cold. The air smelled like pine and old secrets. The water was still, the kind of stillness that only comes from something holding its breath. I sat on the dock and pulled the locket from my pocket. It caught the light faintly, like it remembered being part of someone else's story. Inside were the two words Evelyn had left me: "You were always both of ours." Both. Marjorie and Evelyn. Mother and replacement. Truth and mercy. I didn't know which one I belonged to anymore. A voice behind me said, "You shouldn't be here." I didn't have to turn to know who it was. Evelyn stepped out of the shadows, her coat drawn tight, hair loose around her face. She looked smaller, older, but her voice was steady as ever. "You left," I said. "I tried." "What stopped you?" "You did." I turned to face her. "You left me with ghosts." She shook her head. "I left you with freedom. It's different." "Freedom from what?" I asked. "From knowing? From you?" She smiled faintly. "From the weight of things that don't belong to you." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The lake whispered quietly against the shore. "I saw the video," I said finally. "He confessed." She nodded. "He wanted forgiveness." "And you?" "I wanted silence." "Is that what this is supposed to be? Silence?" I asked. "Yes," she said softly. "The kind that doesn't have to be earned." She stepped closer, the dock creaking beneath her. "When I buried her, I thought I was doing something holy," she said. "I told myself I was saving you from a life built on his lies. But I wasn't saving anyone. I was keeping her close. Keeping you close. Because if you ever found out, you'd stop needing me." Her eyes glistened, but her voice didn't break. "I loved her," she whispered. "And I loved him. But I loved you most. That's what made it wrong." She handed me something, a folded piece of paper, damp from her pocket. "This was hers," she said. "Marjorie's last letter. I couldn't burn it." The paper was soft, fragile. The ink had faded, but I could still read the words. "If he hurts me, promise you'll protect our son. Don't let him grow into his father's shadow. Let him become yours." I read it twice, maybe 3 times. "She asked you to take me," I said quietly. "She begged me to," Evelyn replied. "I was supposed to give you back when it was safe. But it never was." I felt the wind shift across the lake. Somewhere, a loon called, a low, haunting sound that rippled through the dark. "She forgave you," I said. Evelyn looked out over the water. "That's the cruel thing about forgiveness. It doesn't save anyone, it just leaves you with what's left." When I looked at her again, I saw what time had done, the tremor in her hands. The exhaustion beneath her beauty, the small, steady ruin she carried with grace. "What happens now?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "Now, you leave. You start over. You stop asking questions that only dead people can answer." "And you?" "I'll stay until the water remembers her name again." I don't know how long I sat there after she left. The sky began to lighten. The lake turning from black to gray to pale blue. I dropped the locket into the water. It made no sound. The ripples spread, then faded, like nothing had happened. Somewhere beneath that surface were all the things Evelyn had buried: Marjorie, my father, the truth, and now, me. But when the sun rose, it caught the water just right, and for a moment, the surface looked like glass. Unbroken, still, beautiful. And I realized that maybe this was what Evelyn had been trying to teach me all along, that not every truth needs to be carried. Some are meant to sink, so the rest of you can finally learn to float. I opened it. Inside were several pages, police reports, photos, newspaper clippings. The ink had bled in places, but the story was clear. Marjorie Caldwell, found deceased near Lockwood Lake. Ruled accidental drowning. No next of kin listed. No public statement from Robert Thorne, her employer. My father. Below the reports was another document. It was dated 2 years later. Adoption certificate. Adam Caldwell, right pointing arrow Adam Thorne. Signed by Evelyn. I looked up at her. You forged it. I corrected it, she said. Names are like wounds, Adam. You can't heal them if you keep saying the wrong ones. I threw the papers on the table. You've built an entire life out of lies. She smiled faintly. So did he. I just made sure mine survived longer. What do you want from me? She took a slow sip from the glass. Nothing. You have the truth now. It's yours to keep or bury. Why now? Because I'm leaving. Where? Somewhere quiet, she said. Somewhere no one remembers anyone else's sins. I laughed bitterly. You can't just vanish. Watch me. She walked to the fireplace and reached up to the mantel. From behind a framed photo, my father, younger, smiling, she pulled a flash drive. This is the last thing he ever recorded, she said. He made me promise not to destroy it. Maybe because part of him wanted you to see it. She handed it to me. Why give it to me now? Because the dead don't deserve secrets, she said softly. Only the living do. When I got home, I plugged it into my laptop. The file opened to static, then my father's face appeared, tired, older, his voice hoarse. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if she gave it to you, she's still alive. Evelyn and I made a mistake the night Marjorie died. We covered it up, but there's something she never told you. She was the one who found out first, about you. About who you really belong to. He paused, eyes red. She loved you, Adam. Not the way a mother should, but she tried. Maybe too much. She said she buried Marjorie out of mercy. Maybe that's true. I'll never know. He looked off screen as if someone else were in the room. If you forgive her, you'll be better than I was. If you don't, you'll be exactly like me. The video cut to black. I drove back to the house that night. It was empty. The curtains were gone, the drawers cleaned out. But on the dining table, the glass of water still stood, untouched. In the bottom, a small silver locket glimmered, the same one from the lake. Inside, a folded scrap of paper read, I told you I was leaving. Don't follow me. Some truths can't survive daylight. And below that, one more line. You were always both of ours. I stood there for a long time, the room so quiet I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock that had stopped weeks ago. Then I took the glass, walked outside, and poured the water into the dirt. It soaked into the ground quickly, leaving no trace. For a moment, I thought I saw her through the window, her reflection in the glass. Pale and certain, the same look she wore the night she told me my father deserved to die. But when I turned, she wasn't there. Only me. And for the first time, I realized that maybe Evelyn hadn't destroyed the truth to hide it. Maybe she'd done it to set it free, to make sure I could finally live without drowning in it. The glass slipped from my hand, hit the porch, and shattered. The sound was small, clean, and final. The house is gone now. The land sold, the walls stripped, the garden wild again. I didn't go back for anything. Evelyn's letters, the papers. The remnants of a life built from ash. They belong to a different version of me. One that still believed truth was a kind of salvation. The lake is quieter these days. The waterline has lowered. The reeds grown thick where the dock used to be. Sometimes, if I stand close enough, I can still smell the faint trace of smoke. Though nothing has burned here for years. I don't come to mourn anymore. I come to remember. Not her lies, not his guilt, but the way she looked at me that last night. Standing in the half light, half angel, half stranger, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. You were both of ours, Adam. That was the truth I never knew how to tell. She'd smiled then, not kindly, but honestly. The kind of smile that carried both apology and relief. And then she walked into the mist, and I never saw her again. I built a life after that. A small one. Quiet. I teach history now at a school where no one knows my story. I rent a room above a bakery. In the mornings, the smell of bread fills the hall. I tell my students that the past is never gone, it just waits for someone brave enough to look back. But I don't tell them how sometimes, looking back isn't bravery at all. Sometimes it's surrender. Last month, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a single page. You were right to let it go. The lake keeps its promises. No name, no signature, just that single initial, her mark. The handwriting was weaker, unsteady. But it was hers. I read it a dozen times before setting it on the windowsill. In the right light, the ink glows faintly blue, like something still alive. Every evening now, I walk to the sea. It's not the same as the lake, too vast. Too restless, but it listens the same way. The wind off the water carries a sound like breath, like forgiveness if you know how to hear it. Sometimes I imagine Evelyn's voice there, threading through the waves, steady and low. The truth isn't what we remember, Adam. It's what we choose to leave behind. And I think she might be right. Because for all her lies, for all the graves and letters and quiet, deliberate cruelty, she gave me something my father never could, an ending. I kept one thing from that life, a small stone from the edge of the lake. Smooth, pale, the shape of a tear. I keep it on my desk beside her last letter. In the morning sun, they both look like glass. I don't pray anymore. I don't curse them, either. I just sit there, watching the light move through the stone, through the paper, through everything that's left. And in that light, I finally understand what she meant when she said she buried Marjorie out of mercy. Some truths don't belong to the living. Some are meant to rest where the water can't give them back. When the tide comes in, I toss the stone into the sea. It disappears without a splash. The horizon gleams like a blade, cutting the sky clean in half. And for the first time in years, I feel weightless. Not forgiven. Not healed. Just free. The kind of freedom that only comes when you finally stop trying to make sense of the dead. I close my eyes and let the salt air sting. Behind my eyelids, I see her smile one last time, small, knowing, unbreakable. The only truth that ever stayed.